Thanks, Jonathan, and welcome everyone. After a year in which only a small number of summer camps opened in person, this summer is shaping up to look much different. Camps are optimistic as they begin to open registration and develop protocols that will protect the health and safety of both campers and staff. So what can parents expect this summer? And how will state guidelines impact camps? And why is camp now more than ever one of the very best places for youngsters to build identity and create lifelong friendships? Scott, please introduce our panel.
Thank you, Beth. Today, we're excited to welcome Emily Stern, director of JCamp. And JCamp opened last year with limited enrollment. Marty Rochlin, director of Camps Airy, where I was camp doctor for about 10 summers. So I have some history there. My kids all went. And Lisa Handelman, who's the director of Capital Camps. So thank you all for being here today. And why don't we go to each of you and spend a couple of minutes talking about the plans for your camp this summer. We'll get into more details on safety and vaccinations and all of that. But let's start with an overview, if you don't mind. Emily, if you'd like to start, that'd be great.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Hi, everyone. So as mentioned, I'm the Senior Director of Camping at the JCamps, and we run our program called JCamps. We did open last summer. We ran a program called Summer at the J that looked a little different than our typical summer because of COVID and some of the restrictions that we had to follow on such a short time frame. But going into this summer, we are planning for a more typical lineup of our JCamps programming. So what that looks like is a variety of programs. We are a day camp. We operate out of the Owings Mills JCC as well as the Park Heights JCC. The vast majority of our camps are at our Owings Mills location. And our camps range from our typical traditional camp called J-Day, as well as Habima Arts Camp, Sports Camp, tennis, our teen programs. And we also have Kulanu, which is our camp for Orthodox boys at our Park Heights location, all of which we're planning on opening this summer. And they range in age to as young as 2 in our Noah's Ark program and our preschool, all the way up through 15. And then at 16, we start hiring and our campers can become our staff. So we're really looking forward to a summer where we go back to some of our typical programming, however, continuing to look at the health and safety and restrictions that may be involved because of COVID, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more as we move forward through our segment today. And we're really excited to just get back to the fun and safety that we know that we provide through all of our programming, and being able to offer some of the things that we didn't offer last summer, like instructional swim, our ropes course, zip line, archery, and continuing to offer our programs in arts and crafts and science and nature and sports, and really giving kids the opportunity to get back outside, see their friends, which is a huge part of this summer, create those bonds with one another. So that's really what our program is going to look like this year. And I'll turn it over to the next director to talk a little bit about their program.
Lisa, why don't you go next? Thank you, Emily.
Sure.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. When Beth said camp's going to be different, I've been saying a lot. I love that line. It's different, but the same. So we are prepared to open. We're excited to open. We're ready for a fun, safe summer. And in many ways, a lot of our core values and a lot of, like Emily was talking about, a lot of the programmatic things we're doing are all happening in a different way. So it's like same, but there's going to be, for COVID and for safety that I guess we're talking about later, definitely some adjustments, but everything is pretty much a go. We are as an overnight camp right over the border in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. We have kids of all ages coming. One of the things that's slightly different is we moved our rookie and our mini sessions, our smaller sessions, to the beginning of each session. So we have camp for kids rising second grade, can come for like a 5-day of camp experience. That's rising second grade, third grade, fourth grade. We have a mini session, which is a 2-week session for our rising third, fourth, fifth, and then new this year, 6 and 7. That's one of those same difference. We're trying to meet some social emotional needs of those becoming middle schoolers. And then we have our regular regular first and second session, a 4-week and a 3rd week for kids from 3rd grade through our rising seniors who are our CIT. We are a wonderfully, involved, activity-based, Judaic, identity building, Shabbat in that magical way with guitar players playing and song leading and everything one would imagine from an overnight Jewish day camp. Overnight camp. I was thinking what Emily was saying, a lot of the expansion from the day camp to the overnight camp. Have a farm, have a lake, have a pool, all the fun, exciting things. And I think another way this summer is going to be the same but different is a real emphasis on both the physical safety and the social emotional safety. I think our kids need to get back to camp. They need to get back to their day camps. They need to get back to their overnight camps. As Emily was saying, they need to reconnect with their friends. And our young adults, our staff needs to come back to camp equally as much as our campers need to come back to camp. And the relationships between our campers and our staff are so important. So I personally can't wait for summer 2021 and to have everybody back in camp in one way or another. And I guess I'm either sending it back to Scott or passing the virtual mic over to Marty.
Marty, you're up. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Emily and Lisa. Lisa and Emily and I have been in a number of, camp cohort calls throughout the disappointing part of last spring when we all made the decision to adjust or postpone our programs, then through all the planning time coming up for this year. We can't wait. We have had 2 years of plans and ideas and energy waiting for a place to go. And finally, summer 21 is coming. As we like to say in our office, we can't celebrate our 100th year, which is next year, if we don't get to 99. So that's a big part for us as an organization. We just think, I think we would all agree, kids need to get back to exploring and trying and building confidence and building independence. And camp does that. Day camp does that. Overnight camp does that. Making those friends for life and trying new things and just a different set of 4 walls to look at. And parents and families have had a lot of time together. Kids, let's give them some other people to talk to and look at. So camp's going to be a great reprieve for all of us. And we're just excited to get everybody back on our mountains in late June.
So thank you, Marty. Let me throw out a question for all 3 of you. Are parents hesitant? How's enrollment? I think it all goes together. And then we're going to talk about all the safety things you are all doing and try to make folks more confident. But what is the response you're getting from parents?
So I'll jump in. It's an interesting question, yes, Scott, because we did make a session adjustment. So typically our parents of 2nd and 3rd graders have an option to go for a 1-week program. And then we also offer a 2-week program for kids up through 9th grade. We made a choice to remove those sessions this year to just run a 4-week or a 3-week session. We thought it was the best way to be on top of some of the practices and protocols that we were getting from the CDC and other partner camps that ran last year. So for the first time parents, there was a bit of a trepidation. Is my son or daughter ready? I had our hearts set on 1 week or 2 weeks. Now we're jumping to 3 or 4 weeks. So we did some pep talks. We did some persuasion of, yes, they can. They're going to be great at this. Enrollment's been really, really good. We have some wait lists in some sessions, but there definitely have been some parents thinking about, are they ready for that length of time away yet? And we've done our best with our directors, our wellness teams to talk about their kids individually. We all suggest as you get ready for camp, go practice camp, go do a sleepover someplace. Well, that's not been so possible in COVID times. So you can't go practice sleepover. So we're trying to figure out how to coach our families in the springtime up until summer comes, do their best job at mentally preparing for thinking about camp things. And then when they get there, hopefully we'll be able to, take the baton and get them to a comfort level right away.
Marty, I'm going to jump in right on that point because I wanted to hear what else can parents do since things will be different and you guys might not even know how different until all the protocols are placed out there. How can parents prepare their kids, both emotionally, physically, for those differences, for what camp might be like?
So Marty, you want me to jump in on answer that one? Then you can answer again. I was going to say, because we've done a lot of work. We have at camp what we call YOETSITs, which are mental health providers, and we're increasing that for this summer. And one thing I learned from them just recently is parents, it starts with parents talking to kids and helping them feel comfortable in the decision that camp is going to be safe. And we can all tell you, I will tell you, each 3 of these camps, are going to be safe. And parents helping kids know that they believe in that is really key. And that there are individuals that the safety precautions, kids have been in their living rooms a lot and have been told, don't do. And it's a change, and that's going to be an adjustment. But the parents believing in, and I found, and I'm sure the other 2 camps can, equally found, we know our parents, we've been talking to our parents, we've been communicating with our parents, and there is a trust. And I think the parents having honest conversations with kids, yes, things are going to be different, but it's also going to be fun. It could be, again, that same difference. And it starts with those open, really honest conversations. And if parents have any doubt, to reach out and call us, because they need to have less doubts so they can be confident when they talk to their kids. So I think it starts there. If somebody wants to, expand on that, that's where I think it starts, the conversations.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that. We were able to run a program at a smaller capacity last summer, and that was coming off of a time where everyone was, we were almost on lockdown at the time, where we were coming right out of that, going into we started our camp in July. And what we did is something really similar to what Lisa's talking about, is we told parents, talk to your kids, have them start practicing the things that we know they're going to have to do at camp. If your child hasn't been wearing a mask, have them start wearing a mask a little bit every day to get used to it. Go on walks outside to get a little bit more used to the heat. So the more that the parents are talking to their kids about what to expect, as well as practicing some of those things that they may not have been doing, really helped a lot going into last summer. And then the thing that I know all 3 of us know, and for those listening, we can reassure you, is kids are really resilient. We had a lot of concerns going in. Are kids going to get out of the car and carpool line and just have meltdowns because they haven't left their parents in 5 to 6 months, and now we're maybe going into 1.5 years? Every kid on the first day at camp jumped out of the car and said, bye mom, bye dad, bye whoever is dropping me off. They are so excited to get back to see their friends. And I think we're going to see a lot of that again this summer. We're also going through a time now where kids are a lot more used to the mask wearing and the protocols and the procedures that we're going into. It's a much more part of their daily routine than it has ever been before. So I think it's going to be easier for them than I think parents think it will be. But at the same time, I know all 3 camps are putting in a lot of preparation into that camper support staff, into staff training, into how to help kids talk about their feelings around it. If we have a kid who hasn't been around a lot of other people, and all of a sudden they're kind of thrust into a situation where, okay, I'm now around 12 other people. I haven't been in a social circle this big in 1.5 years. How do I deal with that? So training our staff how to help them cope with those feelings, and really just talking about it. Talking really makes a really big difference. And yeah, so that's a lot of the things that we're continuing to work on.
One more piece that might be a little bit different this year compared to previous springs is the tech withdrawal for the kids from home to camp might be a little steeper, because they've been on screen so often. And we're not blaming anybody, but the cold turkey thing might be hard on that drop-off day at camp. So maybe to begin to adjust some of those pieces, get them going from reading on a tablet to reading in an actual physical book, which is great for the camp trip as well, might help get some of those pieces in the camp mindset.
So are you suggesting, Marty, that some of these kids have been on tech so much they may glow in the dark this summer?
It does give us a new kind of flashlight time to look forward to, but we'll have to see.
And Beth, just to jump in here, one more thing. It's some of the stuff that all camps can tell you that you normally do. Again, it's the same but different. So kids for overnight camp, taking responsibility for some of their bedtime routine, to shower independently, all those little things. I see Marty, Nadia's at, those things that they normally do to get ready for camp. It's the same this year. And I think the kids, like Emily said, they're so excited to get back to camp. It's going to be great.
Wait a minute, kids shower at camp now? When I went to camp, nobody showered for the month. Come on. Yeah, that's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the precautions that you're taking, okay? And again, Marty mentioned he's got a bit of a waiting list, and I'd love to hear again how enrollment is going. I asked that earlier, but I think part of it is just reassuring families that all these precautions are being taken. So maybe if one or a couple of you guys would jump in and talk about the base precautions that you're taking.
Sure, I can kind of start off there. We're taking a page from our book from last summer, and also in knowing that things are still changing. This is a constantly moving situation that we're in. Maryland Department of Health still needs to give us more direction locally, and nationally. There's information out there. We're all a part of a lot of cohorts making decisions, but also being really transparent with our families that we will continue to keep your kids safe and think about what's best for them, but also abiding by all the restrictions and regulations that come out as we move closer to camp. So some of those things are the daily temperature checks, and that's something on my end, on the day camp side and the overnight side. This is where our conversation is going to look a little bit different, because it's the bubble versus we're sending your child home every day. So in my world, where we're sending our child home every day, we have the daily health checks every morning. There's going to be a mask regulation. There's sanitation. We look at how we stagger some of our times where we used to do things in really large groups, such as lunch and Shabbat, and staggering those times into smaller cohorts. Camp groupings look very different. We have our smaller pods. That's a word that you're going to hear a lot in the camp culture, which is that smaller group of your bunk, your core group of kids that becomes your family, that becomes your pod. How they don't necessarily interact with other groups as we have in past years. Extra hand washing stations. We even went as far last summer, which we'll continue to do this year, to talk about the route that our groups take when they go from one activity to the next, to make sure that there's not as many groups crossing paths with one another, and we don't have too many groups going to the same bathroom at the same time. So a lot of those things we take into consideration. And then of course we have our COVID protocols. If we do get a call from a family that says that, my child may have been exposed, or we have a kid who, all of a sudden halfway through the day says, I don't feel good. How do we handle those situations? What do we promise our families that how we're going to be communicating with them? And we all have groups of medical staff that we're working with to fine tune those. And thankfully we have what we used last summer, and we're continuing to work towards this summer and what that'll look like.
Very good. Either of the other two of you with some thoughts on that topic? Basic.
Sure. Emily's right on target. We're going to follow a similar approach with the daily temperature checks. And we've heard from camps that ran last summer, overnight and day camps, that being more aware of campers' daily health, having more hand washing, more hand sanitizing vigilance may cut down on all kinds of camp illnesses that might send traffic through a health center. So if we're better up front, it may turn into a smoother ride for everybody. We're also taking steps, and I'm sure Lisa would echo with similar pieces. We're bringing our staff in for an orientation for a little extra time to know that they're coming in with sort of their kind of 2-week quarantine period before camp begins. We're going to have different, as the different testing options become clear to us, we're going to have testing before camp and on arrival day, but for campers and for staff to know everyone's coming hopefully in a confirmed negative and healthy state. And just doing our best to watch the group size and watch the interactions as Emily described, so that when and if it's appropriate to get broader and bigger in group sizes, we can, but you got to start small and be healthy at the outset.
Gotcha.
Marty, that was a really important point that that I've been, sort of wondering about your staff. And maybe Emily, it's even harder for you because at the, sleepaway camps, the staff is there, the parents aren't. So your kids go home, they could be exposed. Are there protocols for families who agree and for staff who agree to participate in your programs?
Yeah, we had this last year as well. We made a point to our families and to our staff that you are deciding to send your child to our camp, to our community. And as much as we are going to communicate with you, you need to communicate with us. And remember that you are a part of this community that we want to keep safe. So there's a fine line between us being able to tell families what they can do when they're not in camp, as well as respecting the fact that they are sending their child to our community. We want as much as we are keeping their child safe, we are keeping everyone's children safe and all of our staff safe. And during staff orientation, we had an entire session last year talking about what is safe to do outside of camp, what is not safe to do, and how to make sure that we're keeping our camp community as safe as we possibly can, but being honest, right? We want our families and our staff to be honest. If there is a time where they think they may have been exposed, to telling us, so that way we can go into the proper procedures that we need to go into. And that was key to us making sure that our camp community stays safe last year, and the same will go into effect for this year as well.
So let's talk
Lisa
about
or Marty, do you have, I'm
Go ahead,
sorry,
Beth.
I just want to make sure if Lisa or Marty wanted to weigh in on that, protocols for staff or for anyone coming to the camp.
Yeah, I would say I agree. One thing that I was thinking about that's slightly different is that this idea of collaboration, like when Marty was talking and Emily was talking, the camps have collaborated so wonderfully. Like we are all, safety is something everybody has to do. So there's this combination of really of sharing ideas and best practices. And it's also, when I think about this collaboration, the families are part of that. There's this camp family partnership, which has always been part of all our camps. It's even more so this year. And also, Beth, to your question about staff, our staff are young adults, they're college age staff, and we are taking care of them too. And we're helping them understand. We're doing the same thing. When Marty said, a longer staff week, I went check, we've talked about it. We're doing the same thing, and we're having them there for their physical safety, but also their emotional safety. They are coming off of COVID just like everyone else. And we're taking care of them so they can best take care of the campers. So it's a really collaborative effort on all ends, which is lovely to see.
Good. So let's talk about vaccines for a minute. Now, when I was playing Camp Doc, and I definitely was just playing Camp Doc, but when I was there all those summers, a lot of the counselors were teachers, and this was their summer job. And teachers are sort of at the head of the list of getting vaccinated. Any ideas of what percentage of your staff you think will be vaccinated before they come to work?
No. I think we're all confident. I think we're all confident that our leadership and supervisor staff folks, those adults who are administrators and wellness team members and that sort of thing, who are educators, will hopefully, fingers crossed, get their first and second vaccinations, which is great for them and their comfort level back at their schools, obviously. We don't know when it's going to trickle down to our college age kids, as Lisa just mentioned. It's different states. Remember, our staff come from different places. So different states, different counties have different successes and obstacles in getting people in lines and into places to get their vaccine. So I wish we had a really good guess. I don't think anyone's going to have that for a little while.
Yeah, that goes back to me to just that's a question that we've started getting from parents because it's becoming more available. And it lives in that category of we will update and we will be as transparent with you as we know more. But unfortunately, we don't have any more of a crystal ball than anyone else, and we don't know how things are going to roll out. Vaccination is also one of those topics where there's only certain mandates that we can have. So there's a lot that goes into that category. But of course, our hope is that a lot of our staff will be.
And just the American Camping Association gave some guidelines on that the CDC has approved, let's say, camp counselors as a group to be considered what they call out of building educators. So like daycare folks. So the national recommendation is that our counselors can eventually get vaccinated, but that it's state by state, county by county, like Marty was saying, the trickle down. So the path is set. So we are cautiously optimistic that those 16 and above may be able to be vaccinated, but there's a lot of maybe hopeful when we get closer. But it's nice that on the national level that has been what we've seen. And also the ACA, the American Camping Association, said that because not everybody will be able to get a vaccine, it can't be something that they're recommending camps require at this point in time. That may change and we get closer to summer and more vaccines hopefully become available. But at this point, there's no guarantee somebody who wants one can get one. So they're recommending that you don't require it at this point in time. So we're following those guidelines.
Now, I want to jump in just for a minute, Scott, and take us away from COVID, which I know we all wish we could be taken away from COVID, or that it would be taken away from us. And I'm a double vaccinated person, as are you, Scott. So we're lucky ones. Let's just talk about why Jewish camp. I know it's why you all exist, and in the jobs you have. So let's talk about the beauty of that for a moment, and why now, even more than ever, as I said in the intro, it's so important, and why should parents be choosing a Jewish camping option? Who wants to start?
You just hit my favorite topic, Beth. So I'll start, but the other two have to like wave at me if I keep going.
All right, Lisa, roll.
I'm here today because I went to Jewish camp. I believe in Jewish camping at large. You know, we're all three of us amazing Jewish camps. And I think a parent can't go wrong with choosing anyone. But Jewish camps at their core are value-based. And I think that's very important. And some of the values for this time that are especially important is the idea that we create these connections. We connect with each other and to the Jewish community. And having a community connection helps children and young adults know that there are caring people that can support them in difficult times. So that's one value. Another value is the idea of gratitude and being thankful and working with each other. And that also helps kids know that even if you can't control everything, you can control how you respond to things. And that's a deeply held Jewish value. And I'll throw one more out here and then let others talk as well. I find Jewish camps are very inclusive. We have a disability inclusion program, but it goes beyond that. This idea that we are accepting of everybody. We're all in the image of God. We bring together kids and staff from different areas, and we help them develop as unique individuals. And there's a lot of this value-based. Camp for kids is all fun. Kids should think it's just fun. That's what they need to concentrate on. But the adults that are listening, under all that is this intentionality based on Jewish values. And that's what gives us a strength in the world of Jewish camping that I think is just, we could all tell our own camp stories here. Camping means something. And when we've been so separate, it means something even more this year. I think we need camp. The kids need camp. The staff needs camp. I need camp. I can't wait to be there. And I'm sorry, just you hit a topic that I'm passionate about, Beth. So I just had to jump in.
No, that was the whole point, is to hear your passion. Marty, I'm going to let you go next.
Sure, it is a great and a unique opportunity when so many campers and staff who have a different and a very Jewish practice and observance at home can come to camp, and the playing field is leveled, and we have a camp Shabbat or a camp song session or a camp Havdalah. It will not look the same anywhere else anybody else comes from, but it fits and it makes sense to camp. So that's shared experience, and that's where the friendships happen. And look, we all have a cheesy friends for life tagline, but it is 100% true, and that's why it works. There's also a great piece where you'll have the sharing and the teaching from peer to peer, or counselor to camper, or camper to counselor. That only happens at camp. The other interference of technology or other siblings or cousins or parents or whatever, they're all great, but they're different distractors from what we do really, really well at camp. Let's build these communities of friends who teach each other, live together, have these lifelong skills, hopefully go home as a better version of themselves. And so tied with what Lisa mentioned as Jewish values, I mean, two of my favorite values, which are interesting in the camp world, of course, it's tradition, because we love what we do at camp, but also hospitality, taking care of new people, making them feel welcome as well. So that's what I think camp really are great bookends for how we all approach our summers. From Emily's perspective, I don't know how they do the magic they do with day camp, but it's amazing. And she's our marvel in how they pulled off last year and how they're going to do it again this year too.
So Emily, Marvel.
I'll take it, Marty. Thank you.
Marvel.
I'll ditto everything that, Marty and Lisa just said about the values. They're integrated into our program. But I think one of the things that's really special about Jewish camping is the fact that it can be for some kids a place where they can explore their Jewish identity for the first time, especially going into this past year where we know some kids are in Hebrew school, some kids aren't. It might be virtual, and the ability for kids to be able to explore their own Jewish identity and their traditions is probably harder this year than it has ever been before. And what we already knew was that camp can be one of the most powerful and positive Jewish experiences that a child can have if they are Jewish. And we are also open to kids and families that aren't Jewish. So we get to be a place where non-Jewish families are exposed to our Jewish traditions and values. And that positive experience, I think, can take it really goes in a lot of directions for families, those that are Jewish and those that aren't, because it is such an important part of our program. When kids go to arts and crafts or athletics or science, there's a value behind what they're doing that is Jewish, that we're teaching our instructors how to tie those pieces together outside of when they go to Shabbat and they sing songs, because of course we do that. We have service, we have all these pieces of our program, but really, how is it all coming together to help kids form their Jewish identity, as well as those who aren't Jewish have positive, relationships around our Jewish cultures and traditions.
Beth and Scott, we have our first Facebook question, and this is a very specific one that goes to Marty today. So Marty, this is from Carly on Facebook. Her daughter is a very excited first-time camper at Louise. She wants to know, will the campers between Louise and Airy do any combined activities together? Very specific question for you.
I'm glad she asked. It's an important question. We're still trying to figure out. As we mentioned before, we're going to start small with our groups. Emily mentioned the pod or the household word, and that's what we're going to open up each camp with your family is your bunkmates and your counselors. We're hoping it's going to be safe at some point in time to peel back some of those layers of protections in camp to make group sizes bigger. We're hopeful that could include some Airy Louise crossovers, but I'm not going to commit either direction. I got a little bit more time on our side, so I'm gonna stick to that and be optimistic.
All right, thank you so much.
So we haven't mentioned the number one reason why camps have to be active and full this summer. These parents have got to get these kids out of the house. They're going crazy. After a year of kids at home, they have got to, for their own mental health, we have got to make sure the camps are busy this year. So this has been a wonderful conversation. Why don't we take a minute with each of you separately talking about contact information and how they get more information on the camp and enroll and all that sort of thing. We have several thousand people that listen to this show, whether it's on Facebook or live or on, what's the one I'm missing? YouTube and all those sorts of things. And the word really does get around. So take a minute and talk about the camping schedule and how they enroll and how they reach out to you as camp directors. Marty, you want to go first?
Sure. And maybe I can put a couple of things in the chat box if I can talk and type at the same time. So first of all, I'm pleased to be representing both Camp Airy and Camp Louise. Camp Airy is our boys' camp. Camp Louise is our girls' camp. We are together in one planning group and entity for the whole year. So we're at airylouise.org, AIRYLOUISE.org. And on that lovely, full of pictures, exciting webpage, there's information. And also, if you're ready, enroll now. And those are great ways to do it. But really, if you do send a request for information to us, Alicia, my counterpart for Louise, myself, or our assistant directors, Jackie for Louise and Zach for Airy, will happily write you or call you back. We've done a lot of family Zoom info sessions this off season. It's better to see people and have smiles and faces together than behind a phone sometimes. We're having virtual pizza parties to kind of have the feeling of being together to talk about camp, doing it together online. Instead, we're having one tonight. So there'll be pizzas being delivered to all these families all over creation to have pizza and talk about camp. And so we'd be happy to, if we don't see you there, we'll see you out and about. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get back to safe, socially distant tours of camp in warmer weather come March, April, and beyond. And then we're getting ready for summer, and that's pretty exciting.
Very good. Emily?
Yeah, so similarly, you can head to our website. I did just put it in the chat, jcampsbaltimore.org. All of our information is there for, you can request more information. You can give us a call. You can go ahead and register right there. A lot of our frequently asked questions, safety protocols, and a lot of the things I touched on today are all located on our website. We're also doing info sessions to be able to ask some of those, to answer some of the questions that parents have that are a little bit more specific to them. We are doing one tonight actually at 7:30, and more information is on our website about that. And yeah, you can register. We have rolling admission. Our camps start as early as June 14th. We have some pre-week camps that start then. Our main summer is 7 weeks from June 28th to August the 13th. And then we have 2 post-week camps that take us all the way up to when Baltimore County is going to go back to school August 27th. So we have programs that span a lot of weeks, and parents can sign up their kids for what works best for their schedules this summer.
Wonderful. And Lisa?
So it's very similar. So it's the website is capitalcamps.org. I put my email in there, lisah@capitalcamps.org. We are doing tours. We are doing safe, socially distant tours up at camp most Sundays, so you can come up and see us. I know some folks that are coming up and see us and then seeing Marty. You know, we have some joint folks, so come on up that way. We also have a variety of virtual open houses. There's one specifically for the Baltimore community coming up on Sunday, March 7th. We're partnering with a whole bunch of groups in Baltimore to do that one. So I just, you know, and reach out, come see us, come talk to us. We're can't wait for summer.
Wonderful. Hey, I have a question that just occurred to me for all three of you. You know, some families are struggling financially. That happens every summer, but maybe more this summer than most. Are there accommodations or help available for families that really want their kid to go to camp, but they just can't afford it?
Yeah, so we offer financial aid packages to our families. It's something that we know every family has different situation, maybe even more so this year than they have in the past. So we just ask them to reach out to us, to talk openly with us about what we can do to try to help them. And we do offer different opportunities to help families out.
Wonderful. Either of the other two camps?
The same. I'm guessing that we all do, you know, a robust financial aid and increased it this year because we knew there was a need. So families should definitely reach out. It was also part of our intentionality of keeping some of those smaller sessions in tax for folks that wanted financially come to a little bit of a smaller time at camp. So finances should not be a reason that anybody doesn't come to any of our camps. They should reach out and talk to us. And I'm seeing nods with Emily and Marty. Like that should not be a roadblock to Jewish camps. Jewish camping is just too important.
Right.
You know, Scott, there are some families who would think on paper they would not qualify for financial assistance. But as Emily mentioned, some things are situational, and you could want to go to camp. You could want to send your kids to camp, and also happens to be a year of a bar bat mitzvah, and it was a tough year with the jobs, and that's situational. And so we're happy to have those private conversations with the family and figure out a way to make camp possible for, like Lisa said, it's so important for the kids. We're all trying to find ways, our own internal finances, partnerships in the Jewish community, Foundation for Jewish Camp, different synagogues, there are other ways and means out there to help get more kids in more camps.
And I would assume that's really a confidential conversation and kept very confidential, because I think that's really important to the families that their kids not be, you know, in the middle of that.
No, and in many cases, I can speak for Airy Louise, Alicia and I won't know as directors who is not on any kind of on a campership. We call them camperships, coming to camp at all. It's information that's taken care of by a different part of our office privately. And of course, it wouldn't, you know, once you cross the driveway, the train tracks, you're in camp, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and just again, another example that's collaboration. Same thing at capital camps. I don't know most of that. It's held by confidentially by our finance department. And once the kids are kids when they cross over the threshold. So Marty, yeah, all the same.
Same
Wonderful.
here.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Same.
I thought that was worth talking about. Beth, what else you got?
Now that I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad we had all three of you here today. If there's, I'll give you each a chance. If anybody has a final parting word, something we didn't ask, but you were hoping to be able to say. So we started with you, Emily. Let's start with you again. Is there anything else you want to add?
I think that we touched on it about the social emotional need for camp this summer, but also what we know that we're going to be up against a little bit. And I will say the bonds that kids create at camp are so strong. And what we found last summer is those bonds were even more strong than they had been in the past between camper to camper, between camper to staff, and between staff to staff. And we're expecting that again this year. Kids need to get out of the house. They need to be with their friends. We're doing everything in our power to make sure that it is going to be a safe and fun summer for our camp community. We feel confident that we're able to provide that again, and we're really looking forward to this summer to be able to get back to what we're calling our new normal. No one really knows what normal is anymore, but we're going to have a new version of it, and we're excited to get back to it this year.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Lisa, you want to jump in?
Sure. We also, I forgot to mention, we had opened up a little bit last summer. We had what we called Cabins at Capitol. We're going to do that again this summer for a couple weekends in May. And so we got to try it out. We got to do all our COVID safety protocols on a smaller scale. So that was a really great sort of test run, and we're glad it was successful. And then, like Marty was saying, we're filling up. There's a real interest in camp. And I think, folks that are interested should reach out, should look at coming to camp. Everything Emily said, everything everybody said, Marty said, the value of camp, it's the same. And, go back to Beth's point, same and different. And part of that difference is the importance for camp this year, I think, is more than ever before. Kids need, and our young adults, kids and young adults need camp this summer. It's the place where a college kid should be working at a camp. Our kids need to come to camp. And I think between us all, if Marty's filled up, I'm sure he'll let me know. If I'm filled up in that, kids need to come to camp. They should go to day camp and come to overnight camp. And I just think that this is the year more than anything. And if people have questions, reach out and talk to us, and let us have those conversations. There are a lot of unknowns, but all of us have the time, the energy, and the desire to connect with you all as individuals and figure out how to make camp possible for our kids and our young adults.
Thanks. Marty, you have any last words?
Just, if families or campers have questions in this weird year where you haven't necessarily had a chance to meet the people or visit the places, call or write us. We'll do whatever we can to figure out a way to answer your questions, connect you with families who are already coming to camp, other first timers, veterans. I often joke, the cooler, younger version of me, to tell you all you want to know about camps. We're here to partner with families to make everyone. Camp success is kids happy and parent peace of mind. So whatever any of us can do to get that in place prior to opening day for us sometime in June, we're all more than happy to do.
Awesome.
Good.
Well, I'm sorry, Scott, did you have something else?
No. I was just nodding in agreement. That's all.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to wrap it up by thanking you all once again. This was terrific. And I never got to go away to sleepaway camp, but Marty, you may be interested in knowing when I moved back to Baltimore many, many years ago with a 10-year-old, well, he was 9 at the time, and I needed him to go away to camp, and I told him he could pick any camp on earth, and he picked Airy. So there you go. He's 38 years old now, and it was a great experience for him. So again, thank you all. I do hope your phones and websites and whatever will be ringing off the hook now with people who feel more comfortable and really want to get their kids of any age to get some kind of a phenomenal experience, which I know all of you provide. So thanks again. We have a couple other great camp resources for our audience. The Associated Center for Jewish Camping provides resources and free personalized guidance to help you make the best camp choice for your family. And you can reach them at associated.org/livecamp to learn more. And JMoore's findkidscamp.com. It's a highly intuitive website that simplifies your search for the right summer camp or program in the greater Baltimore area. So please take advantage of those resources. And also, please share with your friends what you learned today and how they can watch this show if they missed it live and find out all the information. Join us again next week, Tuesday at noon, for another great show. And in the meantime, please continue to visit associated.org or JMore Living and jmoreliving.com for more information. There's great stories and all kinds of resources, and sign up for the weekly newsletter. And until we get to see all of you again, please stay well.
Thanks, everyone.